Hello students, in this session I will be covering Annamalai University's MBA first year subject Organization Behavior, and in this session I will be covering Unit 6, that is Lesson 21 to Lesson 24. Lesson 21, Organizational Culture. What do you mean by organizational culture? Organizational culture originates from the founders of the organization based on value system held by them. So it's a culture originates from the founders of the organization. So what and how they manage the organization, how much value they have given to the when they build up the organization. Is what it is count here. So now it is further passed on down line. That means the culture of the founders will be passed on down line to the organization and its employees. Organizational culture is also a function of the nature of work and goals of the organization. So the work and the goals of the organization, the objectives of the organization is also mentioned here. It is visible from the organization structure. So it's a different from organization structure. Centralized command and control, strict hierarchy and fixed communication are indicative of formal culture with little freedom of action and with scant attention to innovation and creativity. So these are the things that defines organizational culture. If it is a strict area, a strict environment, then there will be a centralized command. So the centralized command will pass on command and control and will have a strict hierarchy and fixed communication line. So the communication will be passed on from the top to the bottom through a definite hierarchy of managers, and the managers will disseminate information to the employees down below. Okay. While decentralized work culture will promote autonomy, that means some amount of freedom that will lead to greater job satisfaction. So decentralized command will not give autonomy, but decentralized command or decentralized work culture will give some amount of autonomy to the employees. Now, functions of organizational culture. It gives members an organizational identity. So every member of the organization, that means the employee of the organization, will have an identity in the minds of the society. Okay, sharing norms, values and perceptions give people a sense of togetherness that helps promote a feeling of common purpose. So organizations like Tata group companies, Birla group companies have their own identity. When somebody hear about working in Tata, so they will have, the society will have some amount of identity given to those employees. It facilitates collective commitment. The common purpose that grows out of shared culture tends to elicit strong commitment from all those who accept the culture as their own. So when employees accept the culture, company's culture as their own, it's a strong commitment and a bond between them originates. It promotes system available stability. By encouraging a shared sense of identity and commitment, culture encourages lasting integration and cooperation among the members of an organization. It shapes behavior by helping members make sense of their surroundings. Our organization culture serves as a source of shared meaning that explains why things occur the way they do. So they have a common behavior or common way of things to be done happens inside an organization. It provides a boundary. Culture creates distinction between one organization and the other. So there will be a different distinction area between one organization and other organization. Now, managing organizational change. Okay. Philosophy of organizations founders makes a great difference in shaping the organization's culture. So it's mentioned here in the description that culture is valuable for the organization because it enhances organizational commitment. And down below, the mission and vision of founder members, hard work, competitive spirit and way of life is important as it establishes cultural value of any organization. The vision of Ratanji Tata has created a Tata culture. So it's specifically mentioned about Tata. So Lutyens has suggested the following 2 steps in creation of culture. A single person, founder, has an idea for a new enterprise. The founder brings in one or more other key people and creates a core group that shares a common vision with the founder. So these are the things available in Tata, so that it is mentioned in this textbook or the text available here. Levels of culture: observable artifacts of culture. These are the symbols of culture in the physical and social work environment. Shared value. So there will be some amount of sharing, value sharing. So values to be built up and value will be shared among the employees of the organization and the team members of the organization. A person should feel that he is producing an umbrella that keeps health of the society. He is not merely working for material gain but for good of society. Common assumptions. Common assumptions are fallout of shared value system and observable artifacts of culture. Employees over a period of time form within themselves a common culture. Okay. Culture shock. Culture shock is the difficulty people have adjusting to a new culture that differs markedly from their own. The shock of moving to a foreign country often consists of distinct phases. Though not everyone passes through these phases and not everyone is in the new culture long enough to pass through all 5. So there is a honeymoon phase, there is a negotiation phase. The honeymoon phase is the first phase or the initial phase where people are getting to know the habits of the other culture or the other people in the organization, or the new employee is getting introduced to the business. Negotiation phase, after some time, usually 3 months, but it may be sooner or later depending on the individual. Differences between the old and new culture become apparent and may create anxiety. Adjustment phase, the new employee or the member of the organization is getting adjusted to the newly experienced culture in the organization. Mastery phase. In the mastery stage, assignees are able to participate fully and comfortably in the host culture. So the new employee, not so far new employee, but experienced employee inside the organization who has started as a new member of the organization gets adjusted and masters the organization's culture fully. Now, reverse culture shock. Reverse culture shock or re-entry shock or on culture shock may take place. Returning to one's home culture after growing accustomed to a new one can produce the same effects as described above. When after working in an organization and when you go back to your own culture, it becomes a cultural shock. So these are the things covered in lesson 21. Now we will move on to lesson 22. Management philosophy. Every organization exists for fulfillment of social objective, whatever it may be. Automobile industry is there to fulfill the social need of transportation, that is movement. That means movement of goods and or services and the people, transportation. So basically, when you talk about in the area of logistics or supply chain, it's purely the movement of goods from one place to another. For the purpose, transportation is used, and transportation is used for the movement of people also. Top management. Top organization culture is an important aspect of organization success. So a good amount of organization culture is needed for the success of every organization. Once the organization culture is established, it is the duty of managers to ensure that all workers respect the organizational culture and run the organization as per its philosophy. It is the duty of the management to lay down organizational mission which is achievable. Okay. What first is the selection. Standardized procedure should be used to hire right people for right job. So it's part of organizational culture. Now, socialization. Employees should be properly inducted in the organization. Organizational policy should lay down procedure in this respect. So these are the things required for getting to know what the organizational culture and the philosophy of the management regarding organization. Now, lesson 22 is over. Now we move on to lesson 23, organizational climate. The concept of organizational climate has been assessed by various authors, and there are different definitions. Okay. Now, in organizational culture or environment in the enterprise is based on the perception of the enterprise by employees. It is characterized by the relationships between people and organization and relations of superordination and subordination. They are determined by mutual influence of targets, formal structures, processes, and behavior of people. The feelings that an employee has at work, his perception of values, rules, patterns of behavior, ways of management, etc. And there are various organizational climate theories available. Factors influencing organizational climate. Selection process of employees. So the selection from the very beginning, the selection process of employees influences the organizational climate. Leadership style and approach to solve problems of the employees. Wage administration. Attitude to implement change and incorporate latest technology. Job description. Organizational structure and frequency to modify the same based on need. Performance evaluation of employees. Promotion policy and its implementation. Efforts involved in promoting creativity and innovations. Availability of resources for research and development. Organizational values and promotion of culture. These are the factors that affects organizational culture. Okay. Now we move on to lesson 24, the last unit of this subject, organization culture. Conflict management. Okay. Conflict is bad as it has adverse effects on the individual performance. Conflict is nothing but conflict with the organization or the employees of the organization. Conflict can be defined as the process that begins when one party perceives that another party has negatively affected something that the first party cares about. So when two individuals is working in an organization and one thinks that the other individual or the employee has made some negative impact in his work or other areas. Conflict must be perceived by either of the parties. So any party can perceive conflict. Stiff opposition due to incompatibility of organizational goals characterizes it. Conflict can also be caused due to difference about interpretation of facts or issues involved. So there can be any area where conflict can happen between two or more individuals or groups inside an organization. Functional and dysfunctional conflict. Conflict that supports the individual and group goals which leads to higher performance is called functional conflict. So when there is an improvement in the performance of individual or group is known as functional conflict. While the conflicts that hinders individuals or groups performance is called dysfunctional conflict. So when the conflict hinders or makes some problems to the individuals and group in their performance is known as dysfunctional conflict. So problem creating conflict is dysfunctional conflict, and problem solving or greater performance supporting conflict is functional conflict. And you can see the functional and conflict and dysfunctional conflicts explanation or description. Again, functional conflict. Conflict develops cohesiveness, togetherness within the group members. Conflict leads to innovation and creativity as there is competing spirit among various groups. Conflict provides challenging work environment and enhances opportunities for self-development of group that leads to formation of group norms. Enhanced work culture leads to upgradation of various systems within the organization. So these are the good things happening because of functional conflict. Now dysfunctional conflict, which is bad for the organization. When conflict does not lead to solution, so only creates problems. When basic goals of the organization are neglected, so this is a problem area when the basic goals of the organization or the objectives of the organization are neglected due to dysfunctional conflict. People should be treated with due respect. So this is not happening when dysfunctional conflict is there. Conflict may lead to absenteeism. So dysfunctional conflict may lead to absenteeism from the organization by the employees. Dual management style may create hatred and lead to dysfunctional conflict. Disagreement with management may be considered as disloyalty. If this environment prevails, an opportunity for creativity would be lost and employees would lose interest in their job. So when dysfunctional conflict is always a bad situation, whereas functional conflict supports a higher level of performance by the individual or groups among the groups. Now, causes of conflict. Communication aspect. When communication is an important process in the organization. Poor communication, passing of an incomplete information to a department may cause conflict because this may have far-reaching consequences in attainment of organizational goals. So, this communicational aspect is one causes of conflict. And there are other various views available for of conflict available inside the organization. Now, conflict process. Pondy developed a conflict process model which is useful to understand how a conflict starts. He has delineated 5 steps that he calls as conflict episode. So you can see the Pondy's conflict episode in the textbook. Okay. So one is the latent conflict. It is the first stage of conflict when conflict promoting situations appear on the scene. Perceived conflict, when one party frustrates the design of the other party. People perceive that as a conflictual conditions exist. Felt conflict. At this stage, the conflict is actually felt and cognized. Or felt is nothing but experienced. Manifest conflict. In this stage, there is not only recognition or acknowledgement of conflict but also manifestation. Manifestation is nothing but description or descriptive area. You can describe what the conflict is about. Conflict aftermath. Once the conflict is resolved between the two parties, there is always a party which is loser because the resolution is the outcome of win, lose or the compromise strategy. So the conflict has to be resolved, and one party will be the loser and other party will be the winner when you resolve a conflict inside the organization. Managing conflict. Avoidance. First the individuals will try to avoid conflict. Competing. Then it becomes a competing attitude between the individuals or the group. Collaborating. Some individuals will collaborate each other. So to solve or find and solve the conflict by having a workable solution between them. Accommodating. Each party will, each individual or the employee or the member of the organization will try to accommodate each other's conflicting situation and try to understand each party's attitude, or whether they will not accommodate or just they will not they try to avoid each other by accommodating or not accommodating them. So compromising, and in this situation two parties will, both the parties will compromise, will come to a compromising situation inside the organization. In conflict situation, compromising is a mode when both parties try to find out some expedient, mutually acceptable solution. So these are the things covered in lesson 24. So you can expect, what do you mean by a conflict, what do you mean by functional and dysfunctional conflict, causes of conflict, managing conflict, conflict process, etc. You may get a question from this lesson. Thank you. Happy learning.